Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss how we're going to be moving from one part of the Lisbon Treaty to another. So we've done with Article 50 now. Famous Article 50. You can expunge that from your minds. It's finished with. We're now going to move on to Article 217, which covers association agreements. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, what is an association agreement and why does it matter? So, this is a framework that exists specifically for the EU to allow for preferential treatment of third countries with whom they wish to have close cooperation in various areas in the immediate future, including, of course, trade. They initially used these as a way to ease new members into the club, but have since used them with genuine third countries as well, most recently Ukraine. Bearing in mind that international rules, WTO rules, those precious WTO rules, prevent preferential treatment for third countries. So the importance of this framework can't be overstated if we genuinely want a deep and meaningful relationship with the EU, which are Boris Johnson's words. This then would be the vehicle to providing that. But there will be a few notable drawbacks, at least from the point of view of Brexit supporters. So the first is, although it allows the third country, the UK in this case, to have a measure of control over its own legislation, which we sort of already had anyway, it would have to agree to common obligations, the level playing field as it's called. This would definitely include respecting human rights and democratic principles as laid out in the EU Charter. That is very clearly stated in Article 217. Secondly, it means that all structures within the EU would have to sign off on the eventual agreement. That means the EU Parliament, Commission, all 27 member states in the EU Council, including ratification in their own parliaments. And that takes a long old time. And it's not at all consistent with the short time frame that Boris Johnson reckons that he's got in mind. Oddly enough, The Sun, which is one of our most despicable papers, but as you can probably guess, a Brexit supporting tabloid in Britain, jumped on the EU isn't democratic bandwagon on more than one occasion. It is now attacking the notion that this association agreement plan would mean that the EU would have to democratically decide on these agreements. How outrageous. Couldn't make it up, could you? But the point is that the notion of Bojo the Wonder Clown coming in with a marvellous deal at the 11th hour, basically in December 2020, which the EU will absolutely love, of course, is quite impossible. The democratic means of approving it in the EU will take longer than Johnson will have. The third notable point is that finally the UK would have to agree some sort of governance to ensure that both sides are keeping to their obligations. These councils or committees would need to be set up by both sides, and not only would that necessitate oversight over the government, something Boris Johnson really hates, but it would take time to set up as well. Now at this point, Brexit supporters may be saying, do you know what, we'll pass on that, thanks. But it's not like there's anything else on offer. If the UK refuses, then it's basically saying it doesn't want a close relationship with the EU after all. It's also turning down preferential treatment, something that is only made legal in the bounds of those precious WTO rules by this association agreement. So I was reading some tweets on the subject from a reporter on EU affairs in Brussels, and they were saying that it was unusual for the EU to have gone for this option so soon. After all, they don't even know yet exactly what the UK wants. But he inferred two things from the fact that they're coming out with this straight away. One, the EU are prepared for these talks. This is certainly true. Over the last few years, Brexit has been chaotic in the UK, as our government, and I do mean our government, not Parliament, has pissed about without any plan for a way forward at any point. It was true under Cameron, briefly. It was true under May, and even under Boris Johnson. He hasn't prepared a roadmap for Brexit at the point at which we've now left. And he still hasn't. He says he's going to later this week, but he hasn't actually done it yet, and we've left. It's also the EU who took Brexit seriously right from the start, enough to develop systems to cope with, say, a no-deal Brexit. The UK hasn't. Our government keep boasting about how much money they've wasted on no-deal preparations, but I haven't actually seen any tangible evidence of that spending. It's like, where is it? Quite frankly, they may have spent it all on the mother of all pizza parties. For all I know, I couldn't say otherwise. So the EU have been thinking about this for a very long time, and it's likely that they worked out their negotiating strategy well ahead of this point. Secondly, it shows how serious the EU are about these talks and how little faith they have in the British government to treat them with any respect. This association agreement will lock Britain down into agreeing a common playing field and a timetable which will allow the discussion of agreements on a range of areas, including security, travel, fishing, others, as well as trade. And remember, this time frame is Boris Johnson's time frame. It's not the EU's. The EU have not said we've got to get this done in 2020. That's Boris Johnson. So they've come up with a system of saying, right, you want it done in 2020. This is the timetable we need to stick to. Bloody tight timetable as well. So that seems to be the EU's position. It's certainly Michel Barnier's position. He definitely wants this association agreement. It now remains to be seen how Boris Johnson will react to it, and how he reacts to it will give us genuine insight into how he intends to pursue his 2020 Brexit strategy. So I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, and if you'd like to subscribe to the channel. And also, if you'd like to support the channel, please click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.